Hello and welcome to this GRIMDARK terrain tutorial, pun intended. I want to show you how to paint this orbital defense laser by GRIMDARK terrain in a very easy but effective manner. Keep always in mind it's about between 6 to 10 millimeter scale, and you don't need to paint every shaded recess and all the little edge highlights. It's more about to get a general feel where our light hit some surfaces and maybe some damaging effects and some weathering like effects I applied here with this terrain piece. So let us dive into the tutorial right after the intro. We start with this primed miniature scenery piece, and I start to apply this model air color by Vallejo. It's 71.045 cement gray. I applied some of the Adeptus Titanicus scenery barrels and crates like you may have seen on the review video I link in the right upper corner for you. This color is applied by airbrush. You can also do something like a paint on these color, so it's up to you. It's just a simple plain coat. In my occasion it's about 2 to 3 thin coats right through the airbrush all over the concrete and plast steel parts of this scenery piece. After I've done this, I use 71.040 Burnt Umber to base the basing material and add these arid nuclear or toxic waste dust thingies I applied on the top with some grit to give some fake points to get your focus on while you're watching this terrain piece, to give it some more interest around everywhere. So several coats of these burnt umber paint, so that I go from a light brownish orange tone to the regular red brown tone, to gradually building up the color, as you may see here. Now on the painting desk I use Steel Legion Drab for a very harsh dry brushing process on the base to match the bases of the previously painted scenery I got, and to match my gaming table a bit. You can apply colors as you may like. Maybe this burnt umber is not the way you want to go for your basing. Maybe you want to go with a more dusty grayish tone. So just change out this color as you may prefer. To give the base more of a dusty, arid effect, I use a light dry brush with Rakarth Flesh here and there, as you see, mostly on the edges, to give a transition from the burnt umber dust pieces on the concrete to the base edge. Next up, Ionrach Skin by Citadel, a base color. I apply this by dry brushing, so I hit all the edges of the scenery piece, and maybe here and there are some strokes that will apply on the surface. It's not the end of the world, so you can leave them there. Apply these dry brushing also over these scatter terrain-like pieces on the top, so that they blend in. Next up, you may use a sponge and stipple on some Ionrach Skin to give more texture to some of the walls, but this is simply an optional part. You won't see it on the battlefield. I think this one is only to show you that you can do stuff like this, and if you really like to, you can pick out, like on a regular battle damage technique, you can pick out some of these little stipples and splodges and add a bit of black or dark brown color to give the illusion that something like the rust protection layer on the ferroplast steel material that's underneath there is showing through. I prefer to not do this right now, because I got a whole gaming table to paint this way, so I need to be fast and effective. Here you can see I apply these sponging techniques on the Orbital Defense Laser Tower. Some of these speckles are too stark, so I just wipe them off with the opposite side of the sponge or with my fingers to blend some of these speckles and give an intensity variation. Next up, all the little metal bits. I use Leadbealcher as a base layer for these small crate thingies and barrels on the base. I paint in the gun barrels on the laser, these little mechanical pieces on the laser, and after the tutorial I decided to paint the handrail also. So keep that in mind. I don't show it here, but I painted it later for some more color interest. You can use several colors for barrel and crates, like green barrels, red explosive barrels, blue. I don't want to mess the color scheme up that much, so I stick to metal silver. There are some trim parts around these gun shield and around these little gun emplacements on the tower. I paint them simply with Balthasar Gold, a nice dark red gold color tone. And after that I apply pigments. Pigment powder mixed in with much water, so I get it very diluted, and apply these pigments on all these little metal bits. Pigment powders are available from several companies like AK Interactive, Vallejo, or whatever you may choose. I apply a brownish color tone for my base rust color, and after that I go to a more of an orange brown, as you may see here. This one is diluted very much and applied on several spots to give the effect of more of a rusted surface. After the pigment powder I do some weathering on the gold parts, apply Nihilakh Oxide, a Citadel technical color, on all these golden surfaces. This one is diluted with water about equal parts, so that I got a nice patina over all these golden bits. That's not too stark in a contrasting cyan tone. Should just very simply apply this color and leave pigments and the oxidation plenty of time to dry, because we go on to these colors with a sponging stippling technique, so that the color needs to be bone dry before we go any further. I take Runelord Brass, a nice brassy, coppery tone that I apply with sponging on all these golden areas. I focus my attention, as you may see here, around the corners, so that these oxidation on the surfaces is showing through. And if you apply some of these stippling on the cement gray surfaces, don't worry, just grab a damp brush very quick and rub this stipple off, so that there is no color left on the surface. After I apply this one, I go to Runefang Steel, a nice bright, nearly chrome color, and get some of these stipples around all these metal rusted surface areas where maybe the internal mechanisms scratch over the surfaces and leave some of these previously rusted areas with their base metal tone. If there are some places where you can't apply this color by stippling with a sponge, I use simply a brush and add some marks here and there, some little spots on the barrels of the laser blaster, so that there is a color variation also. And after that I apply this technique with Runefang Steel on the goldish areas also, but in a very, very focused manner, and don't apply too much of these on the edges. And then you're good to go, I think. Maybe here and there you want to apply some more of these oxidation, give it more definition around these small rivets. As you see here, I apply it right from the pot. In the pot I also pre-dilute my color around 3:1 part paint to thinner medium. So just here and there pick out some rivets and give them like a recess shading, and some of the lower areas get some oxidation more to give the illusion of a fake shadow. And then I think you're good to go. This is the finished result. Keep in mind the handrail is painted also with metal color Leadbealcher and added some pigments. If you want to paint your scenery like this, I would appreciate it. Just leave some pictures or links to your pictures in the comments below. Tell me in the comments how you feel about this style of painting your Adeptus Titanicus or 6 to 10 mm scenery for your table, and just click on the recommended videos on screen. Thank you, leave a like, and we see in my next tutorial for you. Till then, keep on wargaming!